Samuel loved to laugh. Every time he was with Clara, he forgot the world. She had round cheeks, sparkling eyes, and a laugh that could chase any gloom away. Everyone noticed their happiness. But not his mother. She watched them with a frown, hiding her anger behind a thin smile. Mrs. Okoro had rules. Her rules were iron, unbending. Samuel's happiness did not fit into them. She believed only thin, graceful girls could make a proper wife. Clara, to her, was unacceptable. That idea planted a seed of cruelty she nurtured daily. Samuel's friends whispered to each other. "Why doesn't she like Clara?" they asked. But Samuel didn't know how to answer. His mother had power over him, and he loved her too much to argue. He only smiled at Clara in secret, holding her hand when he could. Clara noticed nothing at first. She only saw Samuel's joy. She baked cookies for him and wore her favorite dress, hoping to see that grin she loved. Samuel's mother, however, saw only what she considered flaws, and she began planning her interference. That night, Mrs. Okoro sat in her room, scheming. "He must not marry her," she whispered. Samuel's happiness, she decided, would be crushed, or at least shaped into what she wanted. Tomorrow, she would start her plan. Morning light spilled into the Okoro mansion. Mrs. Okoro sat at her breakfast table, tapping her fork nervously. Samuel entered, bright-eyed, unaware of the storm brewing. His mother's heart was cold, her mind full of schemes. She decided to meet Clara. Not with kindness, but with rules, with insults carefully hidden. "I want to talk to you," she said, her voice sweet but hard. Clara, unsuspecting, smiled and agreed. She did not know the challenge ahead. Samuel followed silently, his heart heavy. He knew his mother was strict, but he never imagined she could be cruel. He tried to reassure Clara with a squeeze of her hand, but she smiled confidently, unaware of what awaited. Mrs. Okoro studied Clara like a hawk. Every laugh, every movement, every fold of her dress was criticized silently. Clara's warm personality, which made Samuel's heart sing, was invisible to the mother who valued only appearances. By the end of the meeting, Clara felt uneasy. Samuel's mother left her with veiled warnings, thinly disguised as advice. Samuel saw the tension but could do nothing. His mother had begun the battle, and the first round already felt heavy. The next day, rumors began. Samuel's mother whispered to neighbors, friends, even family. "Clara isn't right for him," she said. "He deserves better." Each word was a seed of doubt planted in Samuel's community. Clara felt the subtle coldness but couldn't understand why. She had always been kind, generous, and loving. Why would anyone judge her for her size? Her confidence wavered, but Samuel held her hand tightly, reminding her she was loved. At school, Samuel's friends noticed a change. Samuel no longer laughed as freely. The warmth in his eyes seemed smaller, like a candle shielded from wind. He carried the burden of his mother's disapproval quietly. Mrs. Okoro watched from afar. She loved power, control. If Samuel's joy could be molded to her liking, she would be satisfied. Clara's presence challenged her authority, and that could not be allowed. That night, Clara sat with Samuel, trying to find answers. "Why does she dislike me so much?" she whispered. Samuel hugged her tightly, silently promising to protect her. He did not yet know the lengths his mother would go. Samuel's mother cornered him one evening. Her voice was sharp, slicing through the warm air. "I cannot allow you to marry her," she said firmly. Samuel froze, unsure how to respond. Clara, standing beside him, looked confused and hurt. She didn't understand why a mother could be so cruel. Samuel tried to explain, "Mother, she's kind, she makes me happy." His words fell like stones into a silent wall. Mrs. Okoro's eyes gleamed. "Kindness does not feed a family properly." Appearance matters. Status matters, she hissed. Every sentence was a hammer, trying to shape Samuel's future according to her will. Samuel felt trapped. He loved his mother, but he loved Clara too. He had never imagined a fight between loyalty and love. His chest felt tight, his thoughts scattered. Clara's hand found his. "We'll face this together," she whispered. Samuel's heart warmed despite the cold shadow of his mother's cruelty. He realized this battle had just begun. Mrs. Okoro called a family meeting. Samuel, Clara, and his extended relatives sat in a large, tense room. The air was thick with expectation. "You need to reconsider this relationship," she said to Samuel, her tone smooth but unyielding. "It is not suitable. You will thank me later." Her words dripped with authority, leaving no room for argument. Samuel's cousins shifted uncomfortably. Clara stayed calm, though inside she felt storm clouds brewing. She smiled politely, trying to bridge the gap, but Mrs. Okoro's cold eyes ignored her warmth. Samuel tried to speak, but his mother's sharp gaze stopped him. "Let me finish," she commanded. Every word was designed to belittle Clara quietly, erode her confidence. The meeting ended without resolution. Clara left, confused and hurt, while Samuel felt torn. He loved both his mother and Clara, but he realized his mother's cruelty was far deeper than he imagined. Samuel and Clara met in the park, away from prying eyes. They talked about the future, dreaming of a life together despite the storm at home. Samuel promised, "No matter what, we'll stay strong." Clara smiled, her round cheeks glowing in the sunlight. "I'll do anything to make this work," she said. Her love for Samuel gave her courage, but she feared his mother's relentless opposition. Samuel's mother, meanwhile, was busy plotting. She spoke to friends and relatives, trying to find someone else for Samuel. Each suggestion failed, but she refused to give up. Clara noticed Samuel becoming quieter at home. He hid his frustration, afraid to anger his mother. But in the park, his eyes were bright again, full of hope and love. That evening, Clara baked cookies for Samuel, leaving a few outside his door. It was a small act, but it reminded Samuel of why he loved her. Kindness could survive any cruelty. Mrs. Okoro heard gossip at a neighbor's house. "Clara isn't the right fit for Samuel," they said. Her face tightened, and she decided it was time to take stronger action. She banned Samuel from seeing Clara for a week. "You need space to think," she said. Samuel protested quietly, but his mother's power was absolute. Clara waited patiently. She understood Samuel was trapped, but she refused to leave his side emotionally. She sent letters and small gifts to remind him of her love. Samuel felt trapped and sad, missing Clara terribly. But he also realized how much he loved her. Even distance could not weaken their bond. The week ended, and Samuel rushed to Clara. Their reunion was sweet, full of laughter and tears. Mrs. Okoro watched from afar, her eyes narrowed, her heart silently troubled. Samuel's younger sister, Amora, noticed the tension at home. She secretly admired Clara's kindness and bravery. One afternoon, she told her brother, "Don't let Mom win. You deserve happiness." Samuel felt a flicker of hope. Having an ally in the family, even a small one, made him feel less alone. He began to think of ways to slowly change his mother's mind. Clara and Samuel planned small gestures to show Mrs. Okoro that love mattered more than appearances. They started helping neighbors, volunteering at charity events, and smiling through life's challenges. Mrs. Okoro noticed these acts. She frowned but could not deny their impact. Samuel and Clara's love made others happy, and slowly, her heart softened. One evening, she muttered to herself, "Maybe I have been too harsh." It was the first crack in her iron will, though she did not yet admit it openly. Samuel and Clara attended a school talent show together. Clara performed a funny skit that made the whole audience laugh. Samuel clapped proudly, his heart swelling with admiration. Mrs. Okoro came unexpectedly. She watched from the back, her arms crossed, prepared to criticize. But as Clara's charm and wit won the crowd, even she could not look away. Neighbors whispered, impressed. "She's wonderful," they said. Mrs. Okoro felt an unfamiliar feeling, pride mixed with hesitation. Could her son's choice really be so good? After the show, she confronted Samuel quietly. "Perhaps she has qualities I overlooked," she admitted in a low voice. Samuel's heart jumped, hope sparked for the first time. Clara, unaware of the mother's inner struggle, hugged Samuel tightly. But he smiled, knowing they were winning small battles every day. Samuel's birthday arrived, and Clara wanted to throw a small party. Samuel hesitated, unsure if his mother would allow it. Clara insisted. Love gave her courage. Mrs. Okoro was invited but pretended to be indifferent. She watched silently as friends and family celebrated Samuel, laughing, eating, and sharing stories. Clara's charm shone through every detail. Slowly, Mrs. Okoro saw something she had ignored: Clara's generosity, patience, and thoughtfulness. She realized her son was happy in a way she had never allowed herself to see. Samuel noticed the subtle change in his mother. She smiled faintly at Clara, a gesture so small but powerful. His heart soared. By the end of the night, Mrs. Okoro whispered to herself, "Perhaps she is not so bad after all." The first real acceptance had begun. Word spread about Samuel and Clara's kindness. Neighbors spoke well of Clara, praising her caring nature. Mrs. Okoro heard the stories and felt conflicted. Every compliment pierced her defenses. She realized that maybe her harsh judgment was wrong. Samuel's happiness, she thought, was more important than appearances. Clara remained humble, never bragging. This impressed Mrs. Okoro quietly, further softening her heart. She began observing Clara more closely, seeking flaws but finding fewer each day. Samuel sensed the change. He smiled secretly at Clara, knowing their patience was paying off. Their love was stronger than his mother's cruelty. By the end of the week, Mrs. Okoro started including Clara in small family tasks, testing her patience and kindness firsthand. One afternoon, Clara helped Mrs. Okoro carry groceries from the market. Her laughter filled the air, and her helpfulness surprised the mother. Mrs. Okoro watched silently, feeling a strange warmth. Clara's patience and willingness to serve without complaint slowly melted the coldness in her heart. Samuel noticed the subtle smile on his mother's face. "Maybe she's beginning to understand," he whispered. Hope blossomed quietly in him. Clara never noticed the silent victory. She simply continued to be kind, genuine, and patient, showing Mrs. Okoro the love Samuel cherished. That evening, Mrs. Okoro admitted to herself, "Perhaps I was too harsh. She is not unworthy." Samuel overheard and felt a quiet joy he could hardly contain. Clara noticed Mrs. Okoro struggling with a heavy box of old books. Without hesitation, she ran to help, lifting it with ease. Samuel watched proudly, amazed by her thoughtfulness. Mrs. Okoro felt a strange warmth in her chest. Clara's kindness was effortless, unlike the rigid, calculated people she usually met. Slowly, her walls began to crumble. Samuel whispered, "See, Mother. She's wonderful in every way." His mother only looked away, embarrassed by her own harshness. She hated to admit it, but he was right. Clara laughed softly, not noticing the inner struggle she had caused. Her innocence and generosity continued to soften Mrs. Okoro's judgment. That night, Samuel hugged Clara tightly. "Your heart is winning battles," he said. Clara smiled, knowing that patience and love were slowly changing his mother's mind. The Okoro family planned a small weekend gathering. Clara came prepared, bringing homemade pastries for everyone. Her warmth lit up the room. Mrs. Okoro watched silently. She had expected mistakes, awkwardness, or flaws, but Clara handled herself gracefully. Even the cousins noticed her charm and complimented her. Samuel's mother felt a twinge of guilt. Her son's happiness was evident, and Clara's presence made everyone smile. Perhaps she had misjudged her after all. Clara spoke gently to each family member, asking about their lives and offering help. Her kindness left no room for criticism. By the end of the gathering, Mrs. Okoro realized something powerful: love and warmth could influence hearts more than control ever could. One afternoon, Samuel found his mother in the garden, planting flowers. Clara offered to help, kneeling beside her with dirt-stained hands. Mrs. Okoro frowned initially, suspicious of the gesture. But Clara's laughter and patience melted her resistance. "You're not so useless after all," she muttered, half joking. Samuel noticed the small smile creeping onto his mother's face. Even tiny signs of acceptance felt monumental after months of struggle. Clara continued helping quietly, never pushing or demanding approval. Her consistent kindness created small victories in Mrs. Okoro's heart. That evening, Samuel whispered, "Mother is slowly learning. Keep being yourself, Clara." Clara's cheeks flushed with joy, realizing love could indeed overcome cruelty. Mrs. Okoro fell ill suddenly. Samuel panicked, unsure what to do without his mother's guidance. Clara, however, stepped up immediately. She cooked nourishing meals, brought medicine, and stayed by Mrs. Okoro's side. Her compassion and care were undeniable. Samuel watched, amazed. He realized that Clara's love was not only for him but for everyone around her. She had a heart that cared beyond herself. Mrs. Okoro felt ashamed of her past cruelty. Here was a girl she had judged unfairly, tending to her with grace and patience. By the time she recovered, Mrs. Okoro's heart had shifted. She quietly acknowledged to herself that Clara was truly special. After her illness, Mrs. Okoro began observing Clara more carefully. Every act of kindness, every gesture of patience, impressed her deeply. Clara continued to help with household chores without complaint, supporting Samuel and the family quietly but consistently. Samuel noticed a subtle change in his mother's behavior. She smiled more often at Clara, and even asked her advice on small matters. Mrs. Okoro began thinking, perhaps I have been too harsh. This girl's love is real, pure, and strong. Clara, unaware of the internal battle, simply continued her life with kindness, not realizing her patience had become the key to victory. Samuel and Clara shared small moments of joy. They went on walks, helped neighbors, and laughed freely. These moments left Mrs. Okoro observing quietly, feeling a mixture of confusion and admiration. She began to see how much her son's happiness depended on Clara's presence. The joy she brought could not be denied. Neighbors praised Clara repeatedly, noting her humility, warmth, and charm. Slowly, Mrs. Okoro's resentment faded as reality replaced prejudice. Samuel, seeing his mother's softened demeanor, felt hope. The final battle seemed near, and love had become stronger than cruelty. Clara remained unaware of how much she had already influenced Mrs. Okoro, simply living her life with grace and kindness. One quiet evening, Mrs. Okoro called Samuel to her room. "I want to talk," she said. Samuel's heart raced. "I've seen how happy you are with Clara," she began. "And I realize now that she is kind, loving, and strong. I was wrong to judge her." Samuel could hardly believe it. "Mother, you mean?" he asked. Mrs. Okoro nodded, a rare smile breaking her stern demeanor. Clara, unaware of this private conversation, continued her life quietly, trusting patience and love would eventually win. Samuel hugged his mother. "Thank you," he whispered. The long battle of acceptance was finally reaching its end. Mrs. Okoro announced a family dinner to celebrate Samuel's upcoming engagement. Clara was invited as an honored guest, not just tolerated. Clara's warm smile and gentle nature filled the room. Mrs. Okoro watched her interact, realizing how perfectly she fit into their lives. Samoa felt tears in his eyes. The cruel shadow that had hovered for months was finally gone. Love had won. Neighbors and relatives praised Clara openly, and Mrs. Okoro joined in with genuine admiration. She had finally accepted her future daughter-in-law. By the night's end, Samoa and Clara realized that patience, love, and kindness could soften even the hardest hearts. Samoa and Clara began preparing for their wedding. Mrs. Okoro assisted willingly, sharing advice and guiding the arrangements. The house was filled with laughter and excitement. The tension that once hung like a cloud was replaced with joy and warmth. Clara remained humble, helping wherever needed, and Mrs. Okoro watched with pride. She realized that love, not appearances, created family bonds. Samoa thanked his mother privately. "Your support means everything," he said. Mrs. Okoro smiled softly, realizing she had grown too. The family worked together, united by love, patience, and acceptance. Samoa and Clara knew their journey had only strengthened their bond. The wedding day arrived. Mrs. Okoro stood beside Clara, her heart full. Gone were the cruel judgments, replaced by genuine acceptance. Samoa and Clara exchanged vows, surrounded by family and friends. Mrs. Okoro's eyes glistened with pride and happiness. "Mother," Samoa whispered, "thank you for accepting us." Mrs. Okoro hugged them both. "You make me proud. I see now what true love is." Clara smiled, knowing her patience, humility, and love had finally broken the last wall. Samoa's mother, once cruel and controlling, had transformed through understanding. As they began their new life together, Samoa, Clara, and Mrs. Okoro knew that love, patience, and kindness could overcome cruelty and fear, creating a family stronger than any obstacle.